All things said, the Maldives is still a democracy, a stable country with a stable polity. But some of India's other neighbors, not so much. Just look at Pakistan. Every day brings more bad news from Pakistan. It's either the security situation or some terror attack or some constitutional crisis. Tonight, we are focusing on two issues from Pakistan: the external security threat and the internal political threat. Last week, there was a skirmish at Pakistan's border with Afghanistan at this place called Torkham. Both sides exchanged gunfire in the middle of the day. Take a look. No one died, but the situation is tense. This crossing is very important for both countries. Around 84% of their bilateral trade goes via Torkham. That's millions of dollars. But for 5 days, the border has been shut. Zero trade is happening. So what exactly is the problem here? Depends on which side you ask. The Taliban are blaming Pakistan. They say their border guards were repairing an old outpost and suddenly Pakistan opened fire. Islamabad disputes this. They claim a new outpost was being built on their territory. That's Pakistani territory. And Islamabad says they tried for a diplomatic solution. Instead, the Taliban started firing. So both sides are saying the exact opposite. Meanwhile, the border backlog is getting worse. Just look at these pictures. Dozens of trucks are stuck near Torkham. Some of them were carrying perishable goods like vegetables and fruits. On Sunday, the border officials met for talks. They tried to reach an agreement on reopening the border. No luck though. Torkham still remains shut. And beyond this crossing, there is a larger story here. Think back to 2021. Pakistan helped the Taliban regain power in Kabul. They lobbied for the new regime. 2 years on, relations have soured. Islamabad was hoping that Kabul will help them with the TTP, that's the Pakistani Taliban, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. But Kabul has flatly refused. In fact, they are insulting Pakistan. Look at their statement on Saturday. This is what they said. Such measures are harming the trade of Afghanistan and the region, as well as the national economy of Pakistan, which is still heavily dependent on exports in the current situation. Talk about low blows. The Taliban is now mocking Pakistan. They're telling Islamabad, look at your economy. You need these exports. It's a major strategic setback for Pakistan. They supported the Taliban, hoping for two major returns. One, help with the border. You see, Pakistan and Afghanistan are divided by what is called the Durand Line. That's what their border is called. Pakistan accepts the Durand Line. Afghanistan does not accept it. The hope was that the Taliban will be more compliant, maybe even accept this border. But right now, the opposite is happening. Secondly, Islamabad wanted help with the Pakistani Taliban. This group shares ethnic roots with the Afghan Taliban. They're both Pashtun outfits. But like we mentioned, Kabul is not helping. Their attitude is, your terror group, your problem. I guess it was only a matter of time, because you cannot control groups like the Taliban. They do not specialize in consistent policy. Come to think of it, neither do political parties in Pakistan, no consistency. Their policies and allegiances are not based on ideology, they're based on power. Just look at the erstwhile ruling coalition. Two main parties came together, that's the PMLN and PPP. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, PMLN, and the Pakistan People's Party. Technically, they're still allies, but right now they cannot decide when to hold elections. The PMLN says next year. They want to redraw constituencies before holding elections. But the PPP appears to disagree. Listen to the party chairman, Bilawal Bhutto.
और अफसोस की बात है, हमारे बाकी सियासी जो इत्तेहादी थे, वो डर चुके हैं। वो खौफ ज्यादा है, वो बाय इलेक्शन से भागते हैं, वो बल्दियाती इलेक्शन से भागते हैं, अब शायद जनरल इलेक्शन से भागना चाहते हैं। पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी की ट्रेनिंग में नहीं है भागना।
He says his allies are scared. But not everyone in Bhutto's party is convinced. For instance, Asif Ali Zardari, his father and party president. Zardari says elections should be held next year. Bhutto and other leaders disagree. In fact, he was asked about this difference of opinion. Listen to his response. I'm bound to President Zardari in our family matters, but as far as political matters are concerned, I'm bound to follow my workers. This is what Bilawal Bhutto has said. Talk about high stakes. Over in the Sharif camp, there is more speculation. A new report says former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will return in October, that is next month. Sharif has been living in London since 2019. He was convicted and disqualified in a corruption case. And as long as Imran Khan was in power, he had no chance of returning. But now the game has changed. Pakistan's army is betting on the Sharif brothers, Nawaz and Shehbaz. So the homecoming is being hyped up a lot. It was supposed to happen this month, but for whatever reasons, it's been delayed to October. And even that is not guaranteed. Until Nawaz Sharif's plane lands in Pakistan, anything can happen. Even afterwards, actually. Sharif has been declared an absconder by Pakistani courts. So when he returns, he must face the law. Like I said, it's all very high stakes. You have family tussles, power grabs, alliance issues, and of course, the military godfather. One of the big announcements at the G20 summit came from the sidelines. A new alliance was announced and a brand new infrastructure project was unveiled. The EU Middle East India Corridor. It's an ambitious plan, to say the least, a way to challenge China's Belt and Road, or BRI. It's been called the modern day spice route.
आने वाले समय में यह भारत, पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप के बीच इकोनॉमिक इंटीग्रेशन का प्रभावी माध्यम होगा। यह पूरे विश्व में कनेक्टिविटी और विकास को सस्टेनेबल दिशा प्रदान करेगा।
The corridor links Europe, West Asia and India. How? Through a series of railways and ports. The stakeholders include India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the European Union, France, Italy, Germany and the United States.
Key part of this corridor, we're going to invest in ships and rail that extends from India all the way to Europe, connected by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel. Bridging ports across two continents, unlocking endless opportunities, including making it far easier to trade, export clean energy.
So how does it work? The project will connect rail and port facilities across West Asia. It will basically be the connecting link. This will help speed up trade between India and Europe. By some estimates, it will be 40% faster.
This is nothing but historic. It will be the most direct connection to date between India, the Arabian Gulf and Europe, with a rail link that will make trade between India and Europe 40% faster.
40% faster, she said. I know it sounds complicated. So let me pull up a map for you. Imagine there's a shipping container traveling from Mumbai to Europe. Right now, today, it will have to go through the Suez Canal. You can see it on the map. That's the route it will take right now. 10% of global maritime trade goes through the Suez Canal. And this means it can get quite crowded. The Suez Canal is a huge bottleneck for trade, which brings us to this new route that these countries are proposing. Let's pull up the map for that too. The same shipment can go from Mumbai to Dubai by sea, and from there, from Dubai, it can go on to Haifa on rail. Haifa is in Israel, passing through cities like Riyadh, and finally on to Europe by sea again. This is the new route they're proposing. It saves time, it saves money, plus there are no bottlenecks. Basically, it's a win-win for all.
And this is a very important project from Asia through Middle East to Europe to offer big opportunities and connect people. But our intention is as well to make it real and to be sure that after this commitment, we have concrete results.
So why is this project so important? First, it cuts down travel time and cost, like I said. The East Corridor connects India to the Arabian Gulf. The North Corridor connects the Arabian Gulf to Europe. So it's like a bridge between the two continents. Second, this route makes it easier to export clean energy, also expand access to clean electricity. Third, the members want to lay a cable for energy and digital connectivity. And last, it will safeguard regional supply chains and boost accessibility, thus creating more jobs across the region. So that's all about the plan. But what about the implementation? The members have already signed an MOU. Like I said, that's a memorandum of understanding. They plan on meeting in the next 60 days. That's when they will chart out the future course. And there will be an action plan with a timetable. So there's a long way to go, really. But this corridor is not just about trade and relations. It's also about countering China. The corridor is an alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. It is Xi Jinping's pet project, and it is losing steam. The debt is unsustainable. Countries like Italy are planning to walk out of BRI, and this was apparently conveyed during the G20 summit. Reports suggest that the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, privately signaled this to the Chinese Premier Li Qiang. But Meloni has not said anything publicly yet. Even in a press conference, she said that the decision is yet to be taken.
The issue is how to guarantee a partnership that is beneficial for both the sides, leaving aside the decision that we will take on the BRI.
So China's BRI is losing its sheen, its partners are jumping ship. It now has a credible challenger in West Asia. Or does it? Has China's Silk Road finally met its match in this modern-day spice route? We say it all depends on the implementation. And now let's turn our attention to Morocco, where entire villages have turned to dust. Vast devastation has left debris and a great human cost in its wake. A rare and powerful earthquake struck the North African country on Friday night. The death toll has been soaring rapidly. More than 2,100 people have been killed. Even more are injured. People are struggling without vital supplies like food, water and shelter. Rescuers are scrambling to save people. Foreign aid has begun arriving. Here's our next report.
As the sun came up in Morocco today, the true scale of people's fears were clear. Many were waking up in parks, roads and parking lots. Residents spent a third night sleeping outside, too afraid to return to their homes, fearing that their damaged buildings could collapse. On Friday last week, a rare and powerful earthquake of 6.8 magnitude struck Morocco, becoming the biggest quake to hit the North African country in 6 decades. The last time Morocco felt an earthquake this big was in 1960. It too was of 6.8 magnitude. It had struck Agadir, a Moroccan city, and wiped out a third of the city's population. This year, the quake's epicenter was southwest of Marrakesh, a historic city beloved by Moroccans. Its medieval mosques, palaces and alleyways have suffered extensive damage.
It is a suffering to enter the ancient city and witness the collapsed homes and see people in great pain. It's a painful experience.
But Marrakesh isn't the only one grieving. Over 300,000 people have been affected. Whole villages across Morocco's high Atlas mountain range have been destroyed. Buildings have been toppled. As far as eyes can see, there's only debris and dust. Crude graves have been dug up, and gravediggers are preparing more. Over 2,100 people have died, and the toll is rapidly increasing. Even more are injured. Over 1,000 are in critical condition. On Saturday, King Mohammed VI of Morocco offered a relief commission to be set up. Emergency services were deployed, and offers of international aid began pouring in. By Sunday evening, Morocco began accepting aid from select countries. Now Spain, Qatar, Britain and the United Arab Emirates have sent their rescue teams. Algeria has reopened its airspace to help with evacuations. The country had closed its airspace to Morocco in 2021 when the two nations severed diplomatic ties. So far, Morocco has bypassed offers from France and the US. Other countries like India, Japan, China, Taiwan, Tunisia and earthquake-ravaged Turkey have also offered help. But while rescue ops are underway, many say they've received no official help. The terrain remains a major challenge. Teams are taking hours to reach remote mountainous areas which were also the worst hit.
There are a lot of blocked roads, a lot of people can't find their parents, and a lot of people are still under the rubble. People are still searching for their relatives. Everything went down on them, the mountains, their homes.
We are in the town of Imiantala. It's very remote and it took us about 8 hours to get here. There were no rescue groups and we arrived with the police. The destruction is absolute. All the buildings have collapsed. We will begin our search using dogs and try to find survivors.
Many people are without food, water or shelter. Locals are digging with their hands and shovels in a desperate bid to find survivors. Streets are littered with bodies and dust is everywhere. Morocco is observing 3 days of mourning. As the reality sinks in, the grief and challenges seem unending.
It's not a peck, it's an assault. That was the slogan at a protest in Madrid last week. But why were these women protesting? It's because of an incident that shook Spanish football. 3 weeks ago, Spain's women football team were on a high. They'd just won the World Cup. They wanted to celebrate it. But one moment ruined all of it. It was when Spain's Football Federation chief, Luis Rubiales, kissed player Jennifer Hermoso. It was a kiss without her consent. But for Rubiales, it was just another peck. There was backlash, there were protests, there were calls for him to resign, but Luis Rubiales remained defiant until yesterday. The Spanish football chief has finally stepped down. The story is not a new one though. A top boss abusing his power, women slammed for complaining, and accusations of a smear campaign. We've seen it so many times since the Me Too movement 5 years ago, which is why this resignation is so important. Our next report tells you what it means for Spanish football.
The Women's Football World Cup made a lot of noise. There was record viewership, stadiums were full, fans were excited. They were rooting for their favourite teams. It wasn't about gender, it was just pure football. But just when you thought football was levelling the playing field, one moment brought it all down. Spain had just won the World Cup. The team was ecstatic. They were celebrating their historic win until this happened. That was the president of Spain's Football Federation, Luis Rubiales. He was greeting the players after their win when he kissed Spanish player Jennifer Hermoso. It was a kiss she didn't consent to, and that's all that mattered. Winning the World Cup should have been the highlight of her career, but for Hermoso and her team, it became about fighting the system. As for Rubiales, he remained defiant. He called the claims false. He painted himself as the victim of a witch hunt. He addressed a press briefing. If it wasn't in front of the eyes of millions, perhaps he would have denied that it happened at all.
Before publicly murdering me, I am going to defend myself. I am going to defend myself where any other Spaniard can do, which is in the courts. I am going to take action against these people.
So while the team should have been celebrating their victory, they were left waging a battle against their boss. Pressure started building on Rubiales. FIFA suspended him. The government called him out, but Rubiales refused to resign. His defiance was so brazen, it brought thousands to the street. They wanted him out.
All those victims who do not have a proof of the aggression, what do we have left? What do we have to expect from the system that is not going to protect us? That's why we need to go out onto the streets today.
A masculinist gender aggression that is combined with a situation of abuse of power. I think the reaction we have had, that we are making, is an example for everyone. For me as a man too.
The final whistle, it seemed a 1-0 to toxic masculinity. But the women of Spain came back to fight in extra time. At least 80 female players refused to play. The men's team continued, but they offered some solidarity. The silver lining, however, came 3 weeks later. On September 10th, Rubiales told the federation he was resigning. But even in his resignation, Rubiales remained defiant. He said he would continue his fight to clear his name. This is a big moment for Spanish football. The Football World Cup was supposed to be about equality, but the kiss showed how women were still playing on a man's pitch. It was supposed to be all about the win. Instead, it became all about this scandal. The achievements of the women were benched for the defiance and arrogance of one man. As for Spain, it goes beyond the sport. Most women have had a Rubiales story about men abusing their positions of power and getting away with it. It's happened in offices, clubs, homes, streets, and now on football pitches. Rubiales' career may well be finished, but Spain's #MeToo moment is far from over.
Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In China, strong floodwaters swept people and their belongings away. In Chile, a CCTV footage captured the exact moment when a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck the country, and surfing dogs are making quite a splash at a charity surfathon in the United States. You don't want to miss this. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 2001, nearly 3,000 people were killed after 4 planes were hijacked by Al-Qaeda terrorists. 2 planes flew into the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in New York. The Twin Towers collapsed after a short while. Another plane crashed into the Pentagon. The attacks triggered America's global war on terror, including the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're leaving you with this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We've crossed 2 million subscribers on YouTube. This is arguably the fastest growing news platform, and we can't thank you enough for fueling this growth. All those of you who join us every day to watch this show and more, thank you. We launched Vantage 7 months ago, and these have been some very rewarding 7 months for us. So from the entire team here, heartfelt gratitude.